when you're in the wild, you're doing good if you can see 1% of what sees you.
The ocean's where all the crazy stuff is. All the monsters, all the aliens, anything like that, it lives in the ocean.
All those sharks know I'm there and I can't see anything. Ladies and gentlemen, we are lucky to have one of the most interesting entrepreneurs out there right now, A.G. Gregoroff, who is manufacturing and producing the world's most elite flip-flops. He is a spear fisherman, a black belt, and a hunter. Welcome, A.G. Good to see you, brother.
Thank you for having me. Nice to see you.
Yeah, so when I meet people like you, I'm always interested in a couple things. One is, how did you come up with this idea? And then a lot of people get good ideas, but there's not a lot of people that have the motivation and the endurance to bring them into reality. So how did you get the idea? And then how did you make it come to be?
Yeah, so it's interesting having gone this far through the company. You know, we just had our 8th year anniversary, and the quest has always been for me to personally make my own set of flip-flops the best pair possible, because years and years and years of growing up in San Diego, they always broke, right? The company, all the popularity, the celebrity endorsements, that's all a byproduct. Excuse me. That's all the byproduct of my own personal quest to make the best product on earth. So I've seen guys who have started great companies. I've worked for Apple. I've done other things. And I've seen guys that have this beautiful idea and they craft that idea and they get the right investors and they have the market research. We didn't do any of that. All I did was just set out to make my own pair of flip-flops. And at the beginning, guys would ask for a pair and I'd tell them, no, these aren't for you. This is my own thing. I'm just making my own pair, my own thing. And then eventually a guy would ask a friend, I'd be like, all right, I'll make you a pair and I'll make you a pair. And to this day, I haven't been happy with anything we've made. You know, we've made some world-class stuff, but I'm so psychotically obsessed with making the best in the world that when I see stuff we made generations back, I get embarrassed by it, you know, and people will praise them and, you know, we might get an award, we got a world record and stuff like that. And I look at them in embarrassment because my focus is entirely on the future, making them better and better and better. But the idea really came from having grown up in San Diego, spearfishing, being on the beach. Your flip-flops always break, right? And that's our footwear of choice where we're from. I didn't wear shoes, I don't even remember, until 7, 8, 9 years old. Who knows? You know,
Yeah.
I think maybe at one of my mom's wedding, I wore. My mom and dad got divorced when I was young, so I think at a wedding I was required to wear a pair of shoes, and I hated them. I was all unstable. Even now, when I go and work out, I put on shoes. I could barely walk in them. So flip flops is just the footwear of choice and the footwear that I'm always in. Summer, winter, doesn't matter. I'm always wearing them. Once in a while, I'll throw on a pair of shoes if I go to a nice dinner somewhere here in Vegas, or if I ride my motorcycle. But other than that, I'm in flip flops all the time. So that's kind of like the quick version on, you know, how we started.
Yeah. So, but you've created a top of class product, and then generally when you get to a top of class product, it starts to sell itself. But when did you kind of feel like that you guys reached that echelon?
I still feel like there's tons of work to do, right? We started having done jujitsu since 1990. I've just known a lot of guys in the MMA space and the jujitsu space, obviously. So we would get guys like Ben Askren would give us a shout out, Paige Van Zandt, Joe Rogan, Dana White, pardon me. Get shout outs from people just they would find our brand, see what we were doing, love what we did. So we had a really strong organic all the way, you know, even to today, you know, we're still, you know, Trump wears our flip-flops and our slides. He calls them slippers. And it just keeps going like that. There's always the president of El Salvador wants a pair of our flip-flops. He had his guys reach out and say if we can make him a pair. So To me, I see it every day. So the growth has always been steady, but we have these gigantic leaps, you know.
Yeah.
Anytime Reagan mentions us, 50,000, 100,000, 250,000 more people will go to our website, and see what we do. So it just keeps going and going and going. But the thing with flip-flops in themselves, you had mentioned, creating a class. Flip-flops are the number one worn footwear on the planet. Number one, all over Africa, all over the Middle
India.
East,
Yeah.
India, Asia, the Pacific Isles, South America, Central America, throughout North America, Europe. Around the world, flip-flops are number one. And out of that, everyone's racing to the bottom. How cheap can we make them? Disposable. They're made out of, in Africa, they're like pennies to buy a pair. Pennies.
They'll
They
make them out of a
break.
tire. I've spent a lot of my life in Africa. They'll cut up a tire and make a pair of flip flops.
Anything. Tires, reeds,
Yeah.
see them made out of wood. But when they make them out of that EVA foam that's so classic that we see everywhere, those break. They go into like a dry riverbed because that's where they dispose of their stuff. Rains will come and they'll push all that stuff into the ocean. Business Insider did a piece that said that from their research, listen to this, 25% of ocean plastics are made up of flip-flops. 25%.
Well, you say that, and about 2010, I had the most insane experience. I was touring in China, and they offer like a 3-day Yangtze River cruise, right? And so we get on this boat, and it was the most hilarious like cruise ever. So they had like the staff that like served the food and all that, and those were the same staff that did like the entertainment at night. Like all of a sudden, like there'd be like a fashion show, or there'd be like they'd like be singing and dancing, and it was the same people that was like the bartender. Well, on the cruise, you just stay on the river the entire time. This was the most bizarre thing. The river is full from bank to bank of shoes and flip flops. Old used millions on millions of them. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. And you were wondering, where do they all come from? But the shoes are floating down the river nonstop.
Wild, right? And Americans don't realize this, where if you went to the mouth of an American river, pick one, the Mississippi, the Columbia, anyone, you might see like one water bottle floating by.
Mm.
Some of those countries, you won't see any water. It's
Yeah, it was covered.
The wall of trash. That's what's polluting the oceans. But we don't do it for the conservation side. That's a byproduct. We don't do it for the environmental side. That's a byproduct. We don't do it for the foot health. That's a byproduct. The sole mission is to make the best flip-flops on the planet. So because of that, they end up being costly for some people. There's millions of options, literally millions of options to choose from. If you want to wear a pair of flip-flops, you can go to AMPM, pick up a pair for $3, hanging on one of those spinning racks right next to the disposable sunglasses, right? That's not our customer. Our customer is a person who wants something that's the absolute best in the world. And what we do is we take, by the best in the world, what we're referring to is we take the best materials and the best craftsmanship with the best ideas and innovation, and we mix that with centuries old history and how humans have always worn leather, and we reincorporated that into modern times. And kind of an example that Rogan was talking about is we went from to cook a steak, right? We went from cooking over fire to frying pans and Teflon and cast iron and the gas grill.
Sous vide, yeah.
And nowadays, the best steaks are back over coal, back over fire, back over cooking it over oak. So leather has been worn by humans for thousands of years. The earliest leather goes back 50,000 years. And what they really find is the tools to make the leather, because the leather doesn't really usually
disintegrates
over time. Exactly. But the modern way we make leather, the way we do it, the way we use it, goes back 6,000 years. And if we went back to the Egyptians and we just grabbed a pharaoh and we like seen how he had his gold crown and he would be using what's called vegetable tan leather. And that's cowhide that's been preserved in tannins and roots and tree bark. And it's soaked in these barrels, or what they would do is they carve a big crevice out of the ground and they would soak these hides and it becomes antimicrobial. It's very strong. It kills all the organic material and just preserves the actual fiber. What happens with that is that leather, that vegetable tanned leather, will start to mold and shape to whatever the use is. You've seen it on horses, on the bridles and the saddles, the straps on a horse. And they only use vegetable tan because the more modern way of tanning leather is called chrome tan. It's used chromium. Chromium's super toxic, but that's how, if you see leather in even a BMW or a Ferrari, usually it's chrome tan, you know, where you would consider, wow, this is really nice leather. It's chemically induced leather.
Yeah, so it's very rare and very difficult to get a license to tan because of how toxic it is, and so which greatly increases the expense of tanning because the supply and demand is in favor of the tannery, and a lot of people don't know that those byproducts in the United States is actually, of all the substances that are disposed in manufacturing, it's one of the most toxic.
The chromium is. The
Yeah.
chromium is horrible, horribly bad. And that's the majority of when you see a leather product, if it is actually real leather, because most of the time it's not, it's made with chromium. And we see other brands that are like, wow, this is an American boot maker. They do 100% manufacturing in the US. They're using fucking chromium. You know what I mean? It's crap. Not only is it crap leather, but it's super toxic. Then you put that against your skin. Vegetable tan is an all natural process. And I'll give you an example. You can't use chrome tan leather on a horse. It'll burn the hair on their face and start to give them like a scar through their skin. So you can only use vegetable tan. That's how powerful this stuff is. So if you see something like, people have asked us to compare it to like a fashion brand, right? If you get like a Kenneth Cole or a Calvin Klein belt, and you ask, well, how does their leather compare to toe hold? It doesn't, not even close. It's not even in the category of leather. What they're using is a particle board. And I don't want to shit on them, but I want to give an example so the people listening understand, because people don't know about leather nowadays. So I want to give them a little bit of an insight. So that Kenneth Cole or Calvin Klein belt or whatever belt you're using, that's not even leather. It's a particle board that's wrapped in this fiber. And then what they'll do in the best case, they'll take some leather fibers and they'll sprinkle them across, almost like a dusting, and they'll say it's made with real leather, right?
I get you.
If you move that up, you get to genuine leather. Genuine leather would be equivalent to like if we use wood as an example, particle board, where it takes all these different scrap fibers and it puts them together, compresses them.
Still wood, right?
Would be is genuine leather, right? You might get a really nice jacket and you're like, this was $1,000, $500. It's made with genuine leather, junk. And then when you see something like the seat of a BMW, you see that little pebbling that's in there. It has all that little texture. That's artificial texture that's put in there. And what they'll do is they'll get a low grade leather and they'll press it into this machine and they'll put that kind of pebbling texture in there because there is no real texture in it. It's just the lower level piece of a piece of leather. If you go all the way to the very top, the pinnacle, the absolute best leather is full grain vegetable tanned cowhide. It's the best. So that's the basis for everything we do. There's only 2 tanneries in the US that really make it to the standard we want. And both of these tanneries date back to the early 1800s, so 150 plus years old. And they do things the old fashioned way. Now, you had brought up chromium. So that chromium takes 1 day to make a piece of leather, right? Chrome tan takes 1 day to make. For one piece, takes 1 day. For vegetable tan leather, it takes 3 months to make one piece. 3 months. So we'll get that leather. Then, so you imagine you have a big cowhide. There's stronger pieces throughout that hide. The belly tends to be weaker. The spine tends to be stronger. We're going to take the best cuts out of that leather and we're going to dispose of the rest. We're only going to make our products out of the absolute strongest, So not only the best leather in the world, we're going to take the factory that makes that the best. Then out of what they produce, we're going to take all their grade A, and then we're going to take out of that grade A, we're going to pick the best portions of that grade A. So you're getting the absolute best piece of leather on the planet.
And so, what I think one of the things that attracts people is that you guys use all kinds of crazy leathers, right? Like all kinds of exotic and bizarre, difficult to cultivate, difficult to obtain, right?
Yeah, so the cowhide is the base of what we do. That's on the base layer of everything. That's the straps. From there, we'll layer exotics. We have everything from zebra, elephant, giraffe, hippo, ostrich, shark, stingray, man-eating crocodile, killer hippos that have killed people in Botswana and Zimbabwe. We got some crazy stuff. So you can go out if you want something nice, right? And you want to go out and you want to buy, let's say, your girl a $1,200 pair of Louis Vuitton flip flops. What you're buying is all synthetic material. There's virtually no leather on there whatsoever. It's just man-made materials, right? They look nice, they're cute, they're fashionable, whatever. For that same price, you can buy a pair of black elephant flip flops that were ethically sourced. The portion of the 100% of the money we paid for that hide goes directly back to park funding, conservation, all that type, reimbursing farmers for damage that elephants do on their crops, all that type of stuff. And you have something that's extremely rare, where we look at society, we look at things like diamonds and golds and jewels as really rare, right? If you came in with a diamond, you'd say, hey, that's really rare. But they're not. They're fake rare.
Right.
We can walk around a Costco and you'll see 100 diamond rings, maybe more, right? Maybe 200.
Yeah, so they artificially limit the supply while they bank 95% of the supply, limit the availability on the market to increase the price.
Absolutely. So with the stuff I have in my shop, most human beings have never seen this leather before, unless you're a very, very skilled avid hunter. Like you may have seen some pieces, but most humans haven't seen any of the stuff we have ever. It's super rare. We have some of the only supply. Some of the leathers in the shop are the only ones on the planet. Like the man-eating crocodile, that's one specific crocodile that documented eating a guy, probably multiple, but we got pictures of them cutting the body out. And then a customer could go and buy that and not only have a really high quality pair of flip-flops, they could also have a story that nobody else has.
Yeah, they're walking on a man-eater. Yeah. And so you also like I don't want to mess up your dating profile, but you also raise snakes, right?
Yeah. So we breed. So as a side project, I breed really rare ball pythons, genetically rare. So we have, I have 70 snakes, something like that, but probably 6 to 7 of them are the top in their project or the only ones in the world. They're just really, really genetically rare. And if you think of like a multiple game parlay, like we play sports parlays, imagine trying to genetically hit like an 8-game parlay. It's really, really difficult to do. And it could take years. I got a snake that we just picked up. There's only 2 of them in the world. And the guy who produced it took him 24 years to make that snake. 24 years.
What makes them rare? Is it just the color and the pattern?
The genetics, and it's stacking the genetics. So if we looked at them as humans, you'd say blue eyes, blonde hair, 6 feet tall, world-class athlete, and you're just stacking all these genes. And then you might go to breed them and you might miss that lineup and you have to go again next year. And then you miss again and the snake doesn't want to breed the following year. So it takes years and years and years to stack these genetics together. And then you may stack them together and realize, these just don't look good together. So then you'll go back and you'll breed them. You'll try to miss this one. You'll take a different route. It's very, very time consuming, very costly, because what you're ultimately doing is you're buying time. So I got a snake that if somebody offered me 40 grand for, I would just scoff at them and be like, absolutely not. I probably wouldn't sell it for 100 grand because genetically it's so powerful that you would be giving back, 2 decades of time to try to redevelop that snake. So if me and you wanted to breed that snake from scratch, we're looking at probably 25 years to
Yeah,
get
a
there if
lifetime of it.
we were really lucky.
So, one passion that you and I share, and it's on this show. You're the first guy that I've got to speak to about this because it's something that like is a driving force in my life that for many years owned my mind, and I was like, one topic will be all I want to talk. Go for it.
Tits.
Nah, no, man. Like maybe when I was younger, but the fish took over. It's spearfishing.
Absolutely.
And I live and die by the harpoon, man. What got you spearfishing?
We've spearfished for so long as kids. I don't even remember when we started. We were always in the water.
Were you guys first going for snapper and small stuff, or did you go? When did you get into the pelagics and the big fish?
Once you become more of like a teenager and you can get out a little bit further in the water, that's when the pelagics and the pelagics weren't super abundant growing up. They were there, but you usually had to go out in a boat, and they've changed the California coast. So for people listening, pelagics are like the big roaming fish that go from like deep in the ocean to shore.
Your tuna, your marlins, things like that, your wahoo. Yeah.
And not like the reef fish you might just stick to a local reef. These fish travel great distances. They kind of migrate. White sea bass was a big one. We would see black sea bass growing up, but they've always been illegal. You can't shoot them. Have you seen a black sea bass in the water? It's basically like
no, I've caught the giant sea bass. I've caught like by accident, like with rod and reel, the 200-pound fish and things like that. Yeah.
That thing's scary in the water. When you see that shadow coming at you, you're relieved that it's a black sea bass and not a great white shark. But people listening, so it's equivalent to like a grouper. It's gigantic.
I'll put a picture up. I've caught several of them. When you're like when you're fishing on bottom, and then they just take your lure. And then, but we had a issue one time. We caught a couple, and they wouldn't go back down after we brought them up. And so and we have to release them, and I was the only diver, and so I had to take that thing by the mouth, and I had to dive down without flippers and break the first atmosphere. So I had to take a 200-pound fish down 33 feet to get it to go back down.
Yeah, to deflate its swim bladder.
Yeah. But no, they're an amazing creature. They really are. But one of the things that I think we spoke about on the phone is I've fished all over the world, and I got 2 kids, right? And when you got kids, I think it takes 30 seconds off your dive. But I've had so many shark encounters, and it's not my idea of fun, that I will no longer fish anywhere there's a great white. It's the last thing I want to do is be in the water and see that form come at me. And I know where you guys fish, it's just part of life.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. I mean, they're horrifying creatures. There's just the thought of them, is really, really scary. And there's this weird, I don't know where it comes from, but there's this weird perception that sharks don't really attack people that often. And from somebody who lives in the water, that's absolutely not true.
Yeah. Well, nobody's come back to, not a lot of them come back to report on it. They write them as drowning. So years ago, I spent a lot of time fishing the Texas coast, and I had a guy that had a big fishing outfit down there. And so as they worked with the tourism board, there's kind of an encouragement to count shark attacks as drownings. And they don't want they don't want to scare them away from the beach. And the thing is you've never felt more vulnerable. Like I've been a big game hunter, and I've hunted Africa 27 times. And when you have a gun and you're on land, you stand a fighting chance. When you are in the water with a spear gun, that spear gun's just enough to piss a great white off. It's not. You are so vulnerable, and that is a terrible, terrible feeling.
Yeah, it's so interesting you said that about shark attacks. I was going to say the same thing. We had a guy that got attacked by a great white, and it tore his legs off, and they listed as the cause of death was drowning. Because as he was bleeding to death, he aspirated water, and that was, what killed him. but clearly the leg's missing, and what
Yeah.
would have been what the rest of us would have caught. There's this place called New Smyrna Beach in Florida, which is the shark bite capital of the world. We were talking to a doctor there, and he says just in his little like office by the beach, they might get 20, 25 shark attacks in a summer, just in his, little tiny office that he has, his little ER, but by the coast. And he's like, you come in, you get your hand bit, you get your calf bit off, we'll stitch you up the best we can. You jump on a plane, you're back to Iowa, where you live. It's not getting reported. The news isn't picking it up. And when the news does pick it up, it doesn't even really make, national news. So what they do is they take the amount of shark attacks and then they somehow divide them, multiply them into like all the people on the planet. Well, if just me and you are in the water, that shark only has a chance to either bite me or to bite you. A guy who lives in the mountains in Tibet should not be part of the mathematical equation to who's going to get bit, because he's never ever in the ocean.
They're not
right?
counting the number of shark attacks per people in the water. They're counting it by how many people exist.
Exactly. And sharks, in my opinion, sharks attack way more people than what people realize. That one video of that guy in Egypt that got ripped apart, remember?
Yeah, it's horrendous.
So if that video, and if you guys haven't seen that, I believe was it in Egypt? It was a tiger shark, I believe, in Egypt. Watch it; it'll ruin the rest of your day.
He's screaming for his mom. It's terrible.
Yeah, and he's only 50 yards, 75 yards off the jetty. Like, it's close. So the people are filming it. If that video didn't exist, that would have just simply been a guy that went missing. That's it. Just went missing.
Yeah.
Instead, ripped apart by shark.
Oh, so one time I was fishing in an atoll in the South Pacific, and we were on a Zodiac. And in this atoll, there was a shipwreckage in the mouth of it. And it had more biological activity around it than just about anything I've seen underwater. And some of these atolls, people don't visit but once every 20 years. And so we were out there, and I was the only spearfisherman, but we were looking for giant trevally. And so I go to the mouth of this atoll and jump in the water, shoot a big GT. And as we go to recover it, which doesn't take but a few seconds, we were surrounded by 3 Galapagos sharks. And it's a freaky looking shark. And so we were like, man, maybe we won't go back there. And so for the next few days, we were fishing out in the deeper water, and there was thousands of these little black tips that were just about this long. And I got really scared fishing there, because if anything happens, they were coming so close, some of them would like swim by and hit you. And I was like, if I get bit once here and I bleed in the water, I'm going to be ripped apart like piranhas. So I said, okay, last day we're going to go fish the mouth of that atoll again. So we go, and we go down there, and there's like humphead wrasse, there's all these giant Napoleon wrasse, all these insane looking fish. And I was kind of captivated by the fish, and I wasn't paying attention. And then all of a sudden, a big Galapagos shark comes right in front of me, and I poke him with the spear. And normally, sharks don't like the feeling of metal against them. And so every time that I've done that in the past, and I've fished with bull sharks for 15 years, and every time I've touched one, he's left or went away. And so I poked this shark, it swam and it came back. I poked it again, it swam and it came back. And I'm on a Zodiac, and in the mouth of this, and there's sharks all of a sudden everywhere. So I climb onto the Zodiac, and the shark swims around to my dive buddy, and he has to fight it off. He gets on the Zodiac, and then the shark bites the prop. And it was trying to get the boat. And so as my buddy was poking it with the spear gun, the flopper, which is the barb on the spear, gets caught in the gills. And so now I'm like, okay, if this thing bites the Zodiac, we're gonna sink right here. And so I throw the tow rope around the tail of the shark and turn it around, and we start dragging it. And as we're dragging it, we're in that mouth of the atoll. The motor goes down in the boat. And so I turned the shark loose, and we rowed back. But I thought we would have all died right there. No one would have known. And it would have just been like fishermen go missing.
That's it. That's it. That's how the stories. Anytime a fisherman goes missing, sharks got him.
I think so too. And but it's one of those things that like if you fish in an area where there's sharks, oftentimes there's the sharks understand what people are, and if you got a spear gun and stuff, I think sometimes they're a little bit more respectful. But when you go to these, people talk about, oh, I want to see what the world was like before man. I want to see untouched wilderness. Bullshit. When I've been in these areas, I've dove in shark sanctuaries and places where people don't go in the most remote corners of the world. It is terrifying. You don't want to be in there. Those sharks have no understanding of people. They think you're food. They come up to you and they'll come up to you very casual because you don't move fast, and sharks can move insanely fast. It's like trying to get away from someone that has a helicopter. And so, and then they come to you and invade your space, and it makes for some very uncomfortable fishing. At this island that I was fishing on, the locals, several of them had bite marks in their legs. And so what they had to do is they had to put fencing to about 3 meters in the water so that they could fish there, or they could just clean their fish from their nets, because as they were skinning fish before, the sharks chase fish up onto the bank, and they get them. Well, these sharks learned that the people were there, and they started getting the people. And so, on an island where your only source of nourishment comes from the ocean, the people don't get in the water. They're too terrified, so they fish from the bank. But imagine that you're incarcerated on your island because of the population and behavior of the sharks.
Yeah, it's very real. And I like that you said that it's like being attacked by piranhas, because that's exactly what I'll tell people when you see like a 2-foot shark or a 1-foot shark. That 1-foot shark has an ice cream scooper size mouth, and that'll take that chunk right out of you. You don't want to leave the water with any parts of your body missing. But if you said a tiny piranha is going to bite you, everybody would freak out. But a 2-foot shark is way bigger than a piranha.
It'll kill you.
Yeah, you can bleed out really, really fast. And a big shark isn't even, it's unimaginable what a great white would do.
One time I had a pretty good mackerel on the end of my spear, and the line's out, I don't know, a few meters, and I'm going to collect it. And a shark came up and took it. And the speed at which that mackerel disappeared, it was like, remember in the old cartoons when they would bring the eraser on and it would just disappear? It disappeared. There was like nothing there. There was like no blood. It was just snap, 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 mackerel gone. And your appendages would have looked the same way. And they're sharp enough. What people don't realize is when they bite, it's a clean cut. It's not like a crocodile that rips you apart. It just disappears you.
Yeah, so it's just full serration. So with sharks, people like blood is a big thing with sharks, right? But sharks, their main sense is they have a lateral line and they pick up electrical energy. So if you just picture water as being this thick substance, any vibration, any movement, any sort of eradication in the water, humans can give that off easily, but any sort of a shark. So if you catch a fish, the moment you snag that line, that fish gives off a little jitter that sends an electrical signal out, and everything comes to it. Everything. That's their number one sense. Blood is a secondary sense. You know what I mean? But it's that electrical energy in the water. So when we're spearfishing at night, or when we're free diving at night for lobster with just a bag and a light, that's where it really gets horrifying, because it is scary. You could get really tough grown men and put them in the water, the ocean at night, take them underwater, and they become little girls.
Oh, yeah, I'll lose my courage real quick. I had a bull shark.
Scary.
I had three bull sharks on me one time, and I look up and the boat was like this big, real far away, and I turned into a complete bitch. I was screaming for that boat, slapping the top of the water. No, I mean that's not what I want to play at my 20-year high school reunion.
Yeah,
sure.
With bull sharks there, you definitely want to get out of the water. That's about as bad as you get.
Yeah, so you're talking about that electrical signal. So all predators, so like canine predators, feline predators, sharks. So cats and dogs have whiskers, and they sense things around them through their whiskers. And crocodiles have it on the edge of their mouth. Sharks have it, and so that helps them navigate in low light environments and in other ways, and it helps them find what's around them. And so guys like you that fish in that water, I think you guys got brass balls because you guys fish in murky water. And for me, that's very unnerving to know that all those sharks know I'm there and I can't see anything. There was I forget the name of the wildlife biologist that he wrote a book, and he spent years filming. And what he realized is that when you're in the wild, you're doing good if you can see 1% of what sees you. And and that's a pretty strong limitation. And so when sharks can see a great distance around them, and we are narrow vision animals. And so you really are at a sensory disadvantage when you're there. I think if you didn't grow up fishing in that water, okay, if you didn't grow up doing that, do you think as a grown man with the wisdom that you have, you would do it?
No, no, even my buddies who grew up in the ocean out there, a lot of them don't do it anymore now that they're older.
Yeah.
And what happened was we had a big like temperature change shift in San Diego. I live in Las Vegas now, but I grew up in San Diego. And the El Nino came in, kind of changed the ocean current a little bit and brought the ocean temperature up just a couple degrees, just a little bit. And we've had things. Are you familiar with Humboldt squid?
No.
Oh, you gotta go deep on these things. Okay, so Humboldt squid is a really big squid, like 6-7 feet long, size of a man, right? Insanely powerful. They're pack hunters. They hunt deep in the water. And what's different from a normal squid is that their tentacles, where the suction is, they have a spinning serrated tooth like a blender. It's something out of a movie. So just Google Humboldt squid
Yeah.
when you get it and watch how horrifying these things are. They live in the Sea of Cortez, right? Been there forever. I don't know if they have any territory outside of there, but that's where they live. Over 1,000 miles from San Diego. Ocean temperature changes. One night, they're just there. A couple divers are out in the water, and they get jumped by these things. They start attacking them, kind of fight them off a little bit, get to shore. And the thing with the ocean is the entire planet is connected, right? So any fish anywhere.
There's no fences. Yeah, there's no fences. Right.
Perfect. There's no fences. Exactly. Temperature and food source is the only thing that keeps things where they are. So if you live anywhere in the ocean, a great white could potentially swim right up to you anywhere in the ocean. A Humboldt squid who aren't in the waters where we are in San Diego are suddenly in the water. And you find out at night. It's not a biologist, it's not a researcher, it's you. You're the experiment, you're the person. And the ocean is such a crazy place because, as we know from what we know of humans, right? We think space is like, God, what else is out there? Space is boring. There's nothing but rocks and gas in space. Space is, there's nothing there. It's dorky. The ocean's where all the crazy stuff is. All the monsters, all the aliens, anything like that, it lives in the ocean. If something comes from another planet to Earth, it's not coming here to see me or you. What are we doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's for the ocean. The ocean's where the crazy stuff is. The ocean's the giant question mark anomaly, on this planet.
Yeah, it's easier for him to get the Hubble telescope to get and get images of space than it is for them to get images on the bottom of the ocean. You're talking about that temperature change. In the Caribbean, the big problem they have now is all the seaweed is coming to shore in droves, right? And so around the same time that happened in San Diego, there was a temperature change in the Caribbean, which alternated the current, which changed the currents, and the seaweed used to be taken out into the ocean, and now it's been brought to shore, which changed the nature of wildlife movement, and now you see all kinds of different fish, and it's wild that when you're out in the water, you are in the middle of a dynamic environment, and you don't know what you're going to see. I was in Zanzibar, and we were fishing for tuna, and we had it was a beautiful moment. We had a pod of humpback whales come to us, and it was the most beautiful experience. So we had about 120-pound tuna on the line that was just boxing and fighting, and the whales became interested, and they came to us, and they felt safe for some reason, and they just wanted to see what was going on. And one of the whales turned vertical and was looking down at the fish on the line, and the sun was going down over the Indian Ocean, and we had that fish there, and we were looking at humpback whales that were looking at us. And I don't know if you've seen those eyes, but there's a lot going on in there. It was one of the most dramatic and like peak life moments I've ever had. But like when you're in the ocean, don't you feel like you're meant to be there?
Yeah, there's a symbiotic relationship, obviously, we have with the ocean. I have some friends that have an interesting philosophy where they consider the ocean as our God, right? There's obviously there's Jesus and there's heaven, there's stuff like that. But as far as what we know as a culture, we can't get away from the ocean. The air we breathe, even being able to look through even the way the light works in the atmosphere, the rain, everything comes from the ocean. The ocean is the God of this planet, right? And every single thing comes from it, dwells on it. Even with the moment you go underwater, you get that mammalian reflex where your heart automatically slows down.
Your blood pressure goes down. Yeah.
Everything. So that's just symbiotic. Everything we have is symbiotic to the ocean. To me, the ocean is the craziest thing. People ask me, hey, I want to learn to scuba dive. What do you think? I would rather scuba dive than be an astronaut. There's nothing to do in space. Maybe do a few experiments, but the ocean's where all the crazy stuff is. So to me, the pinnacle of hunting is the ocean. I love land hunting. I love shooting elk or hunting elk and stuff like that. But I got buddies that kill an elk and they're sweating afterwards. They're panicked and they're like, dude, that was exhilarating. I'm dead inside when I land hunt.
Yeah.
Because the ocean's so horrifying when you're in there that, you shoot, as soon as you shoot a fish, I shoot it and immediately I'm focused on predators all around me. Because as soon as that fish gets hit, everything in the area is coming over to see what it is.
No, you're right. Because so if you fish in the Bahamas and in Mexico between November and February, where the Bahamian sharks come, they are trained to the sound of the spear gun. It's like a dinner bell. It really is. And the difference between I would compare hunting to spearfishing in that spearfishing is like bow hunting underwater. And you said this too, but with you have like a minute and a half time to conduct the hunt. It's like this very limited clock, and the consequences are terminal, right? It's not like I worry about getting wrapped up in the line. I've had a sailfish come back and get us, and it nailed my buddy. You're not going to have that situation very often on land. Hey man, before we go, I wanted to congratulate you on something. So you were an early adopter into jiu-jitsu, and I love jiu-jitsu. I've been practicing a long time, haven't got as far as you have, but you just got your black belt from what I understand. Congratulations, brother.
Thank you. It's like a 35-year high school diploma. It took forever. I changed schools. Jiu-jitsu's changed so much over the years. But real quick, let me tie something back to that hunting, if I can. Yeah. So imagine if you're a land hunter, okay, and you fire your rifle at a deer or an elk. We know when that rifle goes off, everything scatters. Coyotes are leaving, birds are leaving, everything's taking off. Imagine firing that rifle and every coyote, every wolf, every tiger, every mountain lion, every bear, every bird, any creature on earth is going to swarm you and that carcass. That's the difference between hunting in water in the ocean and hunting on land.
Well, yeah,
there's like maybe you'll see a bear, maybe you'll see a mountain lion, but the chances are tiny. Like you could hunt 1,000 years and maybe only see a dozen.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That fish in the ocean, everything's showing up, and you better be ready because now your gun's empty.
Yeah, so there's that technique, right, where you leave the fish on the line so your buddy can shoot what comes next. right? So a lot of times when you shoot a fish, you got a fish on the line, here comes a bunch more. And so you have your buddy go out and just prepare to shoot off the fish you have. Hunting doesn't work that way. Hey, man, it has been a pleasure talking to you. Hope we can do it again. Wish you all the success. Before we go, man, there's a lot of people that they have a dream or they have an idea. What do you tell entrepreneurs that they wake up in the middle of the night and that idea hits them? What do you tell them to do to bring that into fruition?
So it's so interesting to me because I get asked questions like this a lot, and I don't consider myself an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? Like I just want to be the best at what I do. That's it. And I've had really successful guys tell me, if you do something long enough and you care enough, you'll be the best. So whatever idea you have, and I see guys that want to start a business. I got buddies that get out of the military, guys that maybe retire from law enforcement, and they're like, I want to start a business. Don't just want to start a business. Your thought process should be, you want to do something great. Whatever it is, you want to be the best at it. And we could use toehold as an example. Is It's crazy to spend $1,000 for a pair of flip-flops, right? It blows people's mind. Well, the crazy thing is, we don't sell a lot of the $1,000 flip-flops. We sell more of the more expensive, over $1,000. That's what the majority of what we sell is. So if you look at the great brands throughout time, like the Rolex, the Ferrari, those companies, when Enzo Ferrari first came out with a high-end car, people thought it was crazy. What was it, $7,000 for that car? That was insane. Nowadays, a Ferrari is considered a symbol of like the
Of
pinnacle
excellence, yeah.
car engineering. They have race pedigree, all that type of stuff. Rolexes weren't looked at as something prestigious at the beginning, especially wristwatches. They were worn in the vest pocket. You had to create a brand new category. We had to create a brand new category. Not everyone who creates a business is going to do that. But if you care enough and you stay singular focused enough and you say no to everything along the way and you just stay singular focused, you could be extremely successful. If 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 a $60, $100 steak didn't exist and I pitched you the idea of like opening like a Ruth's Chris, a Morton Steakhouse, a Vic and Anthony's, it would be preposterous. But you literally can do that. You can be the best knife maker. You can be the best shoemaker. You can be the best real estate guy, whatever it is, you got to be the best at it. But then there's a key component that a lot of guys forget. You have to now tell everybody that you're the best at it. And a lot of guys can't do that. You have to be able to get your messaging out. So let's say you're the best real estate agent in the world, whatever that is. If nobody knows it, you're not the best. You're not the best. People have to know it. So you have to have that marketing component. If you make the best rifle in the world, you make the best scope in the world, if nobody knows it, it's not the best. Now, not everybody can afford our product, but everybody knows that we make the best stuff. It's not even questioned. Nobody even questioned it. Nobody has ever bought our product. And a lot of guys have seen our product and said it's too expensive or I can't afford it. But no human being on this planet has ever said it's not worth it. And that's the huge difference. So whatever business you want to do, fully immerse yourself in it. Ask yourself, can I do this for the rest of my life? Or there's a lot of companies where a guy gets in, he makes some quick money and he gets out. I don't know those types of businesses. For that type of stuff, I'm the wrong guy. Crypto type stuff, quick buy, flip stuff, not the guy. I don't know. But if you want to create something great and you want to create an institution, let's say you want to be a guide, big game guide in Africa. You got to document what you're doing, and that has to be 50% of what you do. You have to video it. You have to tell people about it. You have to show it. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. You're not.
Yeah, you got to transfer the enthusiasm through the story of the product. And I think it's interesting that the passion that people have when you have like Black Rifle Coffee, or for example, you got a guy that is insane about coffee. He loves it. With you, it's flip flops. With Steve Jobs, it was the iPhone. They had to find something that inspired them in such a way that they wanted to do it better than anyone has ever done it. And so I think with with passion comes motivation, and with motivation can come consistency. And I really like it that we live in such a country where people can manifest their dreams, and I congratulate you on being able to do that. Where can people find your products?
So we have a huge Instagram, but it gets taken down. PETA reports it, and our Instagram's humorous. It's no flip flops. It's just hot chicks. Because eventually people would get tired of just looking at flip flops. They get tired of looking at guns. They get tired of, but nobody gets tired of looking at girls. So our Instagram is just all hot chicks. It gets taken down. It comes back. Right now, my personal account is up, and that's just AG Gregoroff on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. It comes and goes under Toehold. But the best place to go is go to our website, shoptoehold.com. If you simply just Google Toehold flip flops, it's going to pop up everywhere. Just sign up for our emails. You're going to see early stuff that we drop. And then we just added this really cool member rewards program where we give away a lot of stuff to our most loyal customers. What we do real quick is we have stuff on our website for sale, but the bulk of what we do is just really small runs. I might get a pink stingray that I can make 2 pairs out of, or 1 pair out of, or I might get an ostrich that's this crazy blue that we can make 3 pairs out of. Those will never hit our website. You won't see those until they're sold, they're made, and now I'm showing an after picture. So unlike most companies, we're really easy to communicate with. I just give our customers my phone number. They could give me a call. They could text me. They could email us. We respond super fast. Go to our website, hit the contact us page, shoot us an email. We'll get back to you within a few minutes. I'll send you my number. We could talk about what you want. You want to do something custom? You want to do something special? The communication part is something that's really easy to do with us. So just simply Google us and we'll be there.
Right on, man. Well, rock and roll. I hope you get to the ocean. Oh, likewise, man. Hope to share a campfire with you, brother. God bless.
Same. Thank you.